The day that should have been peaceful. The day started exactly how I wanted it to. Clear blue sky, a light breeze coming off the lake. No emails, no work calls, no responsibilities. Just me, my portable grill, a cooler full of food, and the public park I'd been going to for years. This park sat right on the edge of a lake, bordered on one side by walking trails and on the other by a row of expensive lakefront homes. Most of those houses belonged to people who lived under a strict HOA, homeowners. Association rules so tight you'd think they were running a prison, not a neighborhood. But the park? The park was public land. City-owned, taxpayer-funded, open to everyone. And that detail was about to ruin Karen's entire week. Why I was even there. I wasn't throwing a wild party. I wasn't blasting music. I wasn't doing anything unreasonable. It was my birthday weekend. Nothing big, just me, my brother, and 2 friends. We decided to grill some burgers and enjoy the lake view like we'd done dozens of times before. The city had installed designated grilling areas, complete with metal stands and signs clearly stating, "Public use area, grilling permitted." We set up around noon, charcoal lit, burgers sizzling, that unmistakable smell of grilled meat floating through the air. And apparently, drifting toward the wrong house. Enter HOA Karen. I noticed her before she spoke. She stood at the edge of her perfectly manicured lawn, arms crossed, sunglasses pushed halfway down her nose. She looked like someone who lived for confrontation. Mid-50s, blonde bob haircut, expensive athleisure outfit, the posture of someone who had never been told no, and absolutely hated it. She marched toward us like she was walking into battle. I whispered to my brother, "Uh-oh, incoming." Karen stopped a few feet away and cleared her throat loudly, the kind of throat clear meant to command attention. "Excuse me," she said sharply. "Do you have a permit for that?" I blinked. "A permit for grilling?" "Yes," she snapped. "That smoke is blowing directly into my home." I looked behind her. Her house was at least 70 yards away, separated by trees, fencing, and a walking trail. I smiled politely. "This is a public park. Grilling is allowed." Her face tightened. "Well, I live here, and our HOA has very strict rules about smoke, noise, and disturbances." That's when I realized what was happening. She thought her HOA ruled everything she could see. The first warning. I stayed calm. "Ma'am, with all respect, this isn't HOA property. This is a city park," she scoffed. "Oh, I know exactly where I live. And I know the rules." She pulled out her phone and started scrolling aggressively. "Our HOA bylaws clearly state that no resident or guest may create smoke that interferes with the peaceful enjoyment of nearby homes." I nodded slowly. "That applies to your HOA members." "I don't live there." Her eyes narrowed. "You're affecting HOA residents. That makes it our business." That was the first red flag. The belief? That dangerous HOA Karen belief that rules follow them like an invisible force field. I told her politely, "We'll be done soon, but we're allowed to be here." She stared at the grill like it personally offended her. "I'll be filing a complaint," she said coldly. "Enjoy your little picnic while it lasts." Then she turned around and walked back toward her house like she'd just declared war. The fine that shouldn't exist. We laughed it off. At least we tried to. About 40 minutes later, while flipping burgers, my phone buzzed. Unknown number, then another buzz. Email notification. The subject line made my stomach drop. HOA violation notice. Immediate action required. I opened it confused. It listed, smoke nuisance, unauthorized outdoor cooking, violation of community standards, and at the bottom, fine, $250 payable within 48 hours. I stared at the screen. My brother said, "No way." My friend laughed. "They fined you from a park?" I scrolled down. The address listed, not my home. Not any home. Just a vague reference to adjacent activity impacting HOA residents. Karen had done it. She'd actually issued a fine against someone who wasn't even part of the HOA. And that's when I knew. This wasn't over. Karen escalates. Before I could even process it, Karen came back. This time with confidence. The smug kind. She stood at the edge of the park and announced loudly, "I've reported you. You'll need to shut that grill down immediately." I held up my phone. "You mean this fake fine?" Her smile faded. "It's not fake. You're violating HOA rules." I stood up slowly. "Karen," I said calmly, "this is public land. You have zero authority here." Her voice rose. "I pay hall fees. This affects my property value." Other park visitors were watching now. Dog walkers, families, joggers. Karen loved an audience. "Well," she said, pulling out her phone again, "if you won't cooperate, I'll call the police." And she did. Right there, right then, waiting for the cops. Karen paced like a general waiting for troops. She kept muttering things like, "People think rules don't apply to them. This is why HOAs exist. They'll shut this down immediately." I stayed calm, because here's the thing Karen didn't know. And I'd already checked city ordinances. I had photographed the park signs. So I knew exactly where public land ended. And I also knew something else. Calling the cops when you're wrong? That's how you humiliate yourself in public. Police arrive. 2 officers showed up about 15 minutes later. Karen rushed over before they even got out of the car. She pointed dramatically at the grill. "That's them! They're violating HOA rules and filling my house with smoke." The officers looked confused. One asked, "Ma'am, is this your property?" "No, but is this an HOA-owned space?" "Well, no, but..." The officer turned to me. "Sir, do you have a permit?" I calmly handed him the city website page on my phone. "Public park, designated grilling zone." The officer nodded. Karen's face started changing colors. "But my HOA..." The officer cut her off. "HOA rules do not apply to public land." Silence. Pure, beautiful silence. Karen makes it worse. Instead of backing down, she doubled down. "This is harassment," she said, pointing at me. "He's doing this on purpose to bother us." The officer raised an eyebrow. "Ma'am, are you harassing them?" Karen sputtered. "I just want peace and quiet." The officer sighed. "Then I suggest closing your windows." I nearly laughed. Karen did not. The warning she never expected. The second officer stepped in. "Ma'am, this is the 3rd call this month from this address about non-issues." Karen froze. "If you continue to misuse emergency services, you could be cited." That was it. The moment. The crack in her power fantasy. She stood there stunned as the officers walked away. And that's when I knew. She wasn't done. She was embarrassed. And embarrassed Karens are dangerous. The silent stare. For the next hour, we stayed at the park. We ate. We laughed. We enjoyed the lake. But every few minutes I noticed her, standing behind her window, curtains half open, watching us. Not casually, not curiously. She was monitoring us, like we were criminals under surveillance. My brother leaned over and whispered, "She's definitely writing an email right now." He wasn't wrong. The second notice. That night, around 9:30 p.m., my phone buzzed again. Another email. Same subject line, but this time it was different. HOA final notice. Non-compliance will result in legal action. I opened it slowly. This one was longer. Angrier. More dramatic. Karen, because yes, her name was now listed as the reporting party, claimed repeated intentional disturbances. Refusal to comply with HOA authority. Harassment of residents? Threatening behavior? I almost laughed. And then came the new fine. $500, immediate payment required. I stared at the screen. She had doubled the fine. Against a person who was not an HOA member. For grilling in a public park. After the police told her she was wrong. That's when I realized something important. This wasn't about smoke. This was about power. Doing my homework. I didn't respond right away. Instead, I started digging. I pulled city zoning maps, property boundary records, HOA jurisdiction filings, public land use ordinances, and oh boy, Karen's HOA boundary ended 47 feet before the park fence. Legally, officially, undeniably. I printed everything. Screenshots, maps, highlighted sections. Then I waited. The HO letter. 3 days later, a physical letter arrived. Real paper. Official-looking envelope. HOA logo on the front. Inside was a formal violation notice, demanding payment within 72 hours, or further action would be pursued. Signed by HOA compliance officer, which was funny, because when I Googled that name, it didn't exist. The compliance officer was Karen. She had literally typed up an official-looking letter and mailed it herself. That crossed a line. I responded calmly. I drafted one email. Short, professional, polite. I attached city documents, boundary maps, police incident number, photos of posted grilling permitted signs. Then I wrote, "I am not, nor have I ever been, a member of your HOA. The location in question is public property. Any further contact regarding fines or enforcement will be considered harassment." I CC'd the HOA board, the city parks department, the non-emergency police email, and then I hit send. The meltdown. I didn't even have time to enjoy my victory, because Karen replied within 6 minutes. All caps, typos everywhere. Accusations flying, she claimed. I intentionally targeted her home. I was exploiting loopholes. I was encouraging disorderly conduct. I was undermining community authority. Then she dropped the line that sealed her fate. "If you continue, I will personally ensure consequences." That email went straight to the HOA board, and they did not like it. The HO board steps in. The next morning, I got a call. Unknown number. I answered. Hi, this is Mark from the HOA board. We need to clarify something. His tone was apologetic. He asked one simple question. Do you live in our community? No. Long pause. And the incident happened in the park? Yes. Another pause. Then a sigh. I'm very sorry about this. What really happened? Mark explained everything. Karen was not an HOA officer. She had no authority to issue fines. She had been sending notices on her own. And this wasn't the first time. She had threatened dog walkers, filed false noise complaints, claimed authority over public trails, sent fake violation letters before. The board had warned her multiple times. This time, she went too far. The board meeting invite. Mark ended the call with something unexpected. There's an emergency HOA meeting tomorrow night. Would you be willing to attend? I smiled. Oh, absolutely. Part 20. Karen walks into a trap. The meeting room was full. Board members, residents. Karen sitting in the front row, confident again, until she saw me walk in. Her eyes widened, her posture stiffened, and for the first time, Karen looked scared. The meeting begins. The HOA meeting started like any other. Folding chairs, a cheap projector, bored-looking residents scrolling their phones. Karen sat in the front row with her arms crossed, chin raised, wearing the confident expression of someone who fully believed she was about to be validated. She didn't look at me again, not once. That told me everything. People who are right don't avoid eye contact. The board calls her name. Mark, the board president, cleared his throat. Before we move on to regular agenda items, we need to address a serious issue involving misuse of HOA authority. Karen straightened. I saw the smallest smile form on her face. She thought this was about me. Mark continued. This involves issuing unauthorized violation notices, impersonating HOA officials, and harassing non-residents. The smile vanished. Then Mark said the words that hit like a truck. Karen, we need you to come forward. The room went silent. Every head turned. Karen froze. I what? She stammered. Mark didn't raise his voice. Please come forward. Slowly, reluctantly, Karen stood up and walked to the front. She avoided looking at me. The screen turns on. The lights dimmed. The projector flickered. And then, there it was. Her email, full screen, her name, her words, her threats. Gasps rippled through the room. Someone whispered, Is that real? Mark clicked to the next slide. The fake violation letter, her signature. Another slide, the city boundary map, clearly showing the park outside HOA jurisdiction. Another slide, the police incident number. Karen's face went pale. Karen tries to defend herself. She snapped. I was just trying to protect our community. Mark didn't react. You issued fines without authority. I was enforcing standards. You impersonated an HOA officer. They were disturbing residents? Mark finally looked up. Karen, HOA rules do not apply to public parks. You were told this by police. The room murmured. Karen raised her voice. He did it on purpose. He knew it would bother me. Mark turned to me. Did you? I stood up. Calm. Clear. I grilled where the city allows grilling. That's all. Silence. Karen opened her mouth, and then shut it, because there was nothing left to say. The vote. Mark took a breath. The board is recommending the following actions. He read them slowly. Immediate cease and desist order against Karen. Formal written warning placed on record. $1,000 fine for harassment and impersonation. Probationary HOA status for 6 months. Any further violations will result in removal from the HOA. Karen's knees nearly buckled. This is ridiculous, she yelled. I've lived here for 15 years. Mark nodded, and rules still apply. The vote was unanimous. Not a single board member defended her. The walk of shame. Karen didn't storm out. She didn't scream. She didn't cry. She just stood there, shaking, staring at the floor. Then she grabbed her purse and walked out. Slowly. Everyone watched. No one followed. No one comforted her. Power once lost evaporates instantly. One last twist. As people were leaving, Mark stopped me. There's one more thing you should know. He lowered his voice. The city filed a formal notice against her address. For what? False reports. Misuse of emergency services. I blinked. What happens now? She's on a list, Mark said. Any future calls from her get flagged. I nodded. Karma doesn't rush. It waits. The final irony. 2 weeks later, I went back to the park. Same grill. Same spot. This time, I noticed something new. Karen's windows were closed. Curtains shut. No staring. No pacing. No phone calls. She didn't come out once. And the best part? Another family was grilling nearby, louder than us ever were, smoke drifting freely. Karen stayed inside. What I learned. HOAs aren't the problem. People who mistake rules for power are. Karen didn't want peace. She wanted control. And the moment she tried to control something she didn't own, she lost everything she thought she ruled. The end. I still grill at that park. Every summer, every holiday, and every time I smell charcoal smoke by the lake, I smile. Because somewhere behind those curtains, Karen remembers the day she learned. HOA rules stop at the property line. The end.